Oh boy, disclaimer.
Welcome one and all to Simpsons Treehouse of Horror Countdown Review. Continue watching, if you dare. Treehouse of Horror 11 has one of my favourite intros in the series, a wonderful parody of the monsters, only with a slight twist. The entire town decides to kill them all in your typical angry mob fashion, apart from Lisa of course. Brilliant. In Ghost Dad, Homer reads his horoscope which says he's going to die. Despite managing to avoid several serious incidents throughout his day, Homer succumbs to the deadliest thing in the world: broccoli! Upon dying, Homer goes to heaven only for St. Peter to tell him he has 24 hours to do one good deed before he's allowed in. And, as you can expect, Homer makes a complete horse's arse of it. The concept is simple, but it's effective. First off, I love how nonchalant Homer is despite nearly dying every 5 minutes. Also, Homer choking on the broccoli a second time is hilarious. But it's him trying to do a good deed that's most memorable. The fact that he's just so damn bad at it, only to make a good deed by accident, is just such a Homer thing to do. The segment, however, still ends on a bit of a cruel note, with St. Peter still sending Homer to hell because he didn't see him make this good deed. I personally would have stopped the segment after Homer falls through the trapdoor because Satan giving him a noogie is a bit underwhelming, but not enough to drag down the segment entirely. Being honest, there really isn't much else to say, but that's not a bad thing. It's simple but effective. Sure, it's not the magnum opus of Treehouse segments, but it's a fun watch that doesn't get dull. I'll give it a 7 out of 10. Scary Tales Can Come True revolves around the Simpson family living as peasants in a giant pumpkin. After Homer loses his job, he and Marge both realise they can't feed Bart and Lisa, so Homer abandons them in the enchanted forest where all fairy tales come to life. We see Moe as the troll under the bridge from the Billy Goat Scruff story. Bart and Lisa also stumble across the Three Bears house. And of course they manage to get themselves captured by the witch who lives in the gingerbread house. After all, this segment predominantly parodies Hansel and Gretel. Now, the idea of fairy tales might not seem scary to uncultured folk, but trust me, they are. Before Disney butchered them into lovey-dovey crap, fairy tales were bloody and gruesome. And with this being an episode of Treehouse of Horror, they were more than happy to exploit that. For example, when leaving the Three Bears house, Bart and Lisa blocked the door from the outside, meaning Goldilocks couldn't escape the wrath of the bears. Hearing her screams of terror before seeing blood pool out from under the door is chilling. But the best bit is what happens in the witch's house. Just as she is about to throw Lisa into the oven, Homer eats his way into the house and tries to save them. However, the witch turns him into a broom, fish, chicken thing. She then tries forcing Homer into the oven, but gets thrown in herself. And much like Goldilocks, we get to hear her blood-curdling screams of agony. It's wonderful. Also, the George Cauldron gag is pretty funny. But what makes this segment is the animation. The animators did a great job in making an enchanted forest full of fairy tale creatures come to life. It's also very funny. Lisa bluntly stating that Homer and Marge aren't good parents is hilarious, as is Marge's response to Homer abandoning the kids. I'm giving Scary Tales Can Come True an 8.5 out of 10. It's funny, well animated, and has the occasional scare. Oh boy, have I been looking forward to talking about this one. Fun fact, Treehouse of Horror 11 is my earliest memory of watching Treehouse of Horror episodes, and that's because of this segment. This, in my opinion, is one of the best Treehouse segments of all time. After Lisa frees Snorky the Dolphin, in a clear parody of Free Willy, Snorky decides to rally up an army of dolphins to take over the land. As it turns out, dolphins originally lived on land but were forced to the ocean by man millions of years before, and now the dolphins want their land back. This is easily the scariest segment of the episode. Hell, this segment traumatised me as a kid. It's violent and bloody too. The scene where Lenny gets surrounded and killed is eerie, and the dolphins taking over the news station is mortifying. We also see the sea captain torn in half and Willy getting stabbed through his abdomen, and I love all of it. Violence at its finest. But the best bit is the huge fight scene between Dolphin and Man. Just seeing how violent the dolphins are is astonishing. I love how the writers turn one of the most innocent animals in the world into a thing of nightmares. One of them literally breaks comic book guy's neck in a car door. Seeing mankind so easily defeated makes the segment that little bit more chilling too. There's a great reference to The Birds, one of my favourite Hitchcock films, where hundreds of dolphins are seen surrounding the civilians of Springfield. All you hear is the sound of the wind and the occasional noise from a dolphin. It is without doubt one of the more tense and gripping scenes in Treehouse history. It's not all just blood and horror though, it's also the funniest segment of the episode, which I believe makes it the first segment to be both the funniest and scariest segment of an episode thus far. There are a lot of jokes that are just brilliant. There's the Free Willy parody, the late night swimming and alcohol gag, the glory hole gag, the typical Chief Wiggum incompetence gag, the sea captain being the only person who can help gag, and much more. After the segment, Kang and Kodos make their annual appearance to break the fourth wall and in disgust at not being invited onto the Halloween special. They then receive a phone call asking them if they want to advertise Old Navy, which they accept. It's a fun little way to include the pair. Do I even need to tell you what score I'm giving this one? Yeah, it's an obvious 10 out of 10 because of course it is. It's got it all, good comedy, genuine scares and lots of violence. It is a top to bottom perfect segment. Well, the writers definitely had their heads screwed on with this one. All three segments deliver. I know I bleated on a lot about Night of the Dolphin, but that doesn't mean I'm snubbing the other two segments. Ghost Dad, whilst annoying to type, is a solid entry, and Scary Tales Can Come True would be the best segment in many other Treehouse episodes. I feel all three segments were a nice mishmash of different things too. There's a family comedy, a chilling fantasy, and a violent creature feature. Whilst I can't quite give Treehouse 11 the full beans, I can give it a very strong 9 out of 10. It does everything right and is easily one of my favourite Treehouse installments. And that's it for this review and this video. Do you agree with me, or do you think I'm 3 sandwiches short of a picnic? What do you think of Treehouse of Horror 11? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, I'll see you next time.